y'all. It's Florinda Bryant here with Makers and Methods from ACC Drama Department. And I am so excited to have a homeboy on the show today. Bryan Keyth Wilson, thank you so much for being here.
It is a pleasure and honor, and I'm just so thankful.
Yes, I'm so excited to get to talk to you today. I might have questions. So I know who you are. Can you tell the people who are you? Like tell us a little bit about yourself and your work.
Well, my name is Bryan Keyth Wilson. I am originally from a town called Lamarck, Texas, which is the gateway
You
to the mainland. We are one of the cities right off of when you're leaving Galveston Island. And I've been a student of the theater pretty much all my life. I was talking to someone the other day, and I was like, when you get to this age, you start thinking about your life's work, right? And I'm like, what I've been doing all my life. And I was like, you know what? My life work is in the theater. And I am very proud to say that, just because the theater has just been a place that I've found a lot of discovery within myself, within, my environment, the world that I live in. And I just love the theater as being this place. A lot of times I have a brother that's a pastor, and of course, we grew up in the church. And a lot of people say, "Oh boy, you got a calling on your life. You could be a preacher." I'm like, "No, I'm not gonna be a pastor." But I think that ministry, because this is ministry, this is a
Yes.
form of ministry, and ministry is not always packaged in the pulpit. So I'm
Mhm.
just really, I use the theater as my pulpit. Not saying that every time you come see a Bryan Keyth Wilson show, it's a Jesus play or anything like that, but
Uh-huh.
you definitely get some meat that you're able to go
Uh-huh.
home with. So within a nutshell, I'm just a homeboy from Lamarck, Texas. Went to San Jose University, then Hunter College in New York City, and started working professionally, and found a lot about this industry and my black self, and how I had to, figure out ways for myself if I wanted to continue to work in this
Mhm.
business. So that's a bit about it.
Yes. Okay. So I asked people, you talk about being an artist from a young age. Do you remember that one moment where you just like fell in love with it? Do you remember that moment, or that what was the thing or the catalyst that kind of just was like, yes, this is home. This is it.
I think it really hit home for me in the theater. I always knew that my career was going to be in some type of artistic field. I knew that from a kid, just being, having Ollie Williams and Michelle Haynes as, music teachers. And I just knew that, okay, this music thing, and I love to sing, love to act, love to dance. I'm like, okay, so I know that this is going to be kind of what I do,
Hmm.
whatever.
Hmm. Hmm.
But I think that moment really hit home for me my freshman year of high school in the Lamarck High School Theater Department, as Rodney Sheffield as our director.
Hmm.
And it was
Sheffield.
right, it was that moment where I was like, hmm, I think I really like this stuff. I like this being able to pretend and be someone else, and the applause, that gratification that you get at the end,
Mhm.
of a show. So I think that's when it started to really get me. But I think my senior year, my junior and senior year,
Yeah.
is when I really knew I'm gonna go to college for this stuff.
Hmm. Hmm. Good. So when you wear a couple of different hats in the world of theater, do you mind like running down, because you're a choreographer, you're an actor, you're direct, like you're writing. Can you tell us, like, I just want to give the people a list, let them know all the things you do.
A lot of us are multi hyphenates in this business.
Hmm.
By education and trade, I am a preformer. I like to
Hmm.
preform, singer, actor, dancer. But I do wear a lot of roles administratively, and behind the table as a director, choreographer, vocal coach, and even more so outside of that, a producer and PR and marketing.
Hmm. Hmm. And you're a playwright.
And a play, duh,
And you're a
and
playwright. I'm
And a
like,
playwright. That's my money. That's my money right there. Yes.
got to turn the page. You got to turn the page over. You're a playwright. You also are an author, correct?
Correct. Yes. Of two, I've written two novels, one choreo poem, and of course published 10 plays.
Mhm. 10. Yeah, it's like, oh, that, yeah, I guess the thing you almost forgot, your 10 plays. So as a playwright, talk to me about like what's your what's your process? Like does it come like you it just comes to you in the night in a vision, like, or do you like, how do you find your jump off points for your work?
The jump off. I think sometimes it's just some things can trigger moments for me. And a lot of people are like, where in the hell did you come up with this idea? Like the play that I'm working on now, I don't know what our language barriers are here, but it's F boy. We know that we
Come
know we've heard that term, a
on.
lot. We know what that is,
We
right?
know
And
what that is.
F boy is multiracial
Yeah, for sure.
in every race.
Mhm,
So, I was like, I heard this term, and I was like, who is he? Like,
mhm,
who is he? We kind of see those stories like maybe in movies a little bit, but I'm like, I want to see this on the stage. So
mhm,
I delved into that. That's kind of like how things happen for me, just off of conversations, of course, like family, things that happen within my family or
mhm,
things that are going on in in the news. I kind of take my inspiration kind of like from Martha Graham. Martha Graham, she would go look at a painting and come up with a dance.
mhm,
I'm kind of the same way. I'll look at the world and come up with a play. Um, that's kind of how it happens. Like for Color Boys, my choreo poem that I'm working on and have the opportunity to travel with. I was just inspired by Michael Brown's death, and for me, as a black man in America, I couldn't do anything. It's like I can write. So I just started writing. And then in that moment, there was a catharsis because poetry started coming out. And I am by no way, well, I guess I am now, but by that time, I was like, poetry? Brother, come on now. You know your gifts, you know your wheelhouse. And poems just started coming. And that's why, I think a lot of us, there is this divine, I think of what we do as vertical and not horizontal,
uh-huh,
because you have to be connected in some way, somehow to something in
mhm,
order for these stories to come through. And I was just like, I tell people all the time, this was a moment because I have never written work like this. And
mhm.
it was times like when I would workshop the work and I'm like, who in the hell wrote that?
Who did
Who
that?
did that? And so that's why I always, you just got to be able to open yourself up and be prepared for whatever comes forward.
Mhm. Yeah, something that's sticking out to me is this willingness to trust the process, trust the craft, allows your craft to, like, you turn around, like, to be, so, I mean, not so far in your career, because I'm aging us a little bit, but to be where we are in our career and to still be
Mhm.
making new discoveries, to still be finding new ways to play. It sounds like the key part to that is just your willingness to just be open and try the things that are coming forward.
Yeah. And it's scary sometimes because, things, it's always that thing. It's like, it's in my head. It's, I'm bringing this forward. I wonder what the people are going to say, once you start getting it out there. So, you have to it's quirky and corny, but trust the process. You got to trust it.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. So what's next? Because what's tell us about what we can, what's happening with For Colored Boys right now, like where it's going next. I know you mentioned the festival to me. If you could just tell everybody about that.
Yeah, so for Color Boys, we've been blessed to have a residency with the Patterson Performance and Development Council in Patterson, New Jersey. I actually started the residency last month. So today they released the audition notice. So that's really, really cool. So they're auditioning, looking for talent, on the East Coast for Color Boys, and that happens. And we will be debuting it on the East Coast at the Hamilton Arts Festival, and that's June 18th through the 25th.
Mhm,
And I'm really excited about that because I'll be able to go to New Jersey and see the work. But also, we have a great opportunity to work with the wonderful people at one of the most fabulous regional theaters
mhm,
in our
mhm,
country at the Fulton. Got
mhm,
that opportunity for their diversity and inclusion playwright festival, where they're looking for works such as Boys and anything that's diverse and talks about, stories of race and all of that. And we go there I think we go in July. So
Mhm.
it's kind of like a packed summer for colored boys and on the East Coast doing theater. So I'm really
Doing it.
excited
And
about
these are
that.
going to be live performances?
And everything is so in the air right
Uh-huh.
now. So it's like we want to go live, but we want to prepare. So
Yeah,
it's
yeah,
like,
yeah. Mhm.
so it's back and forward. So I
Mhm.
think the one in July is going to be an actual invite only event,
Right, right, right.
because it's precursor to, if I win the festival, then the work will probably be in their fall season, which is major. It's a major just to even be a part, to be a finalist of the four awesome playwrights that are there. But to say that my work will probably go up in one of the most popular regional theaters in our country is just an awesome moment.
Get it? Yes, come on now. Come on, Lamarck.
All right, Lamar, Texas, Lay
Lamar,
Marquette,
Texas. Come on
doing
now.
it.
I always tell people, it's like, I'm like, God, people talk about when I don't use the term homie very loosely, because I like, when you grow up in a community and you grow up your whole life in this place, this, like, when I say a homeboy, I mean, no, that's my
For real.
homeboy. So yeah, there's a lot of homies coming out of, Lamar, that are amazing in all the different areas, particularly the artists. And you're one of those artists that I'm just like, Bryan is out here doing the work. Do the work,
Yeah,
Bryan.
we doing it well.
So talk to me a little bit. I mean, and we know that they're still kind of in flux. We don't know how long we're going to be online performing virtually, when, how that works. What are your thoughts about, like, where the state of theater, so to speak? Like, what do you think
I
at
was
this
talking to
moment?
somebody about this a while back, actually probably Friday, I think. And I'm one of those kinds of people, and I'm sure you're the same way, is that nothing's going to stop the hustle.
Hmm.
And for me, of course, you're grinding, you're hustling, you're doing what you're doing, but then the hustle and grind changes when something like this happens. And for me, I looked at this as a moment to sit down, because you
Hmm.
don't have any other options, but to sit down, think about this career, and realize now you're in control more so of it because of the non-control of the world. The world is just on pause. Now you're in control of something here. And it was out of the pandemic that these opportunities came for me. And that was because I decided that I was really going to focus on positioning myself in commercial theater. And I was going to do whatever I needed to. Now, because of the world being so fast and things going on and things moving, I was just, of course I was grinding and working, but I wasn't really focused on positioning and
Hmm.
placement and being and purposely working.
Hmm.
And this gave me that opportunity. And I've heard a lot of artists, that are just refuse to do the work because it's not, of course, it's not the same, but it's still work. It's still being able to be somewhat creative in the midst of all this chaos and death. And that's the way I had to look at it. It's that whole moment of when life throws you lemons. I add triple sec and tequila and make a margarita, honey.
Absolutely. I know that's right. Oh my goodness. So I'm one of the things I like about what you just said is just it feels that intentionality, being present to the moment. I feel like this is a big opportunity for theater to change. What are some of the changes that you're hoping that we see now and continue to see happening as we move forward in our field?
That Black stories are powerful and important, and people will come to the theater to see them.
Mhm.
Diversity, equity, and inclusion amongst staff, amongst artistic directors. I think that we're at the precipice of that moment in the theater. Um, and also more opportunities like what the Fulton is doing,
Mhm.
by propelling, artists like myself and putting them on a regional stage for our work to be seen.
Mm-hmm.
I want to see that across the country. I want to see more little boys from little hometown or whatever, like myself, like what we like who we are, being
Yeah.
able to have these opportunities. And I think that there's so many more stories to be told. There's so many more experiences that need to be had in the theater coming from the Black perspective. And the reason and I, of course, I don't like to backtrack and explain, because a lot of people think that, oh, because you're so pro-Black that you're less anything else. I'm not so much saying that, but as someone that is, someone that's worked really hard in this business just to be seen,
Mm-hmm.
I am pushing for those stories. I'm even more so even because I'm now in the producer role,
Mm-hmm.
and I'm producing stories like that as well. So I want to see more, see more, and for people to know and understand and make the arts accessible. That's another big thing that I want to see happen across the board. Make it accessible. I want the people from the hood to come and see the shows.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, that I feel like in my career, and especially, here in Austin, as the landscape continues to change, I'm like, we make jokes, and it's not, it's like haha, but it's like there's 10 of us, like, how to create spaces that are safe enough for Black folks to come in. You know what I'm saying? Like, it's just the equity redistribution, so that we can have our own spaces. I definitely feel you on that, and have that wish for our field as well. Like, it's such a good time to change everything.
Mhm.
I feel, and it's like, and it doesn't mean, tell Black stories by Black people. Like, please, I don't understand why, white people continue to still write about Black folks. Like, I just don't understand it. But yes, I'm glad to hear that you found this festival, and hope other opportunities continue to present themselves. So you mentioned something about the hustle, because we have the hustles,
Yeah.
and you were also an entrepreneur.
Right.
Right. And so how do you juggle all of the things? Like, how do you make your magic happen?
You see these gray hairs? That's how. Um, um, it's compartmentalizing.
Hmm.
Whatever's needed in that moment, you focus on it.
Hmm.
And I've always been the type of person that if a lot of irons aren't in the fire or on the fire, then I'm kind of unbalanced. I
Hmm.
need multi projects. I need many things going on. That's just the way I'm made. And people look at me like, Negro, you are crazy. Like, how can you do all of that? And then take care of, and I take care of my mom as well. I'm a caretaker. So, and I look at all of that, and I say that to say this is, you make time for what you want, and you hustle hard for what you need and you got to have. So, you just get, roll up your sleeves, do the work, have many a nights with a bottle and some libations and spirits, but you
Yes.
keep pushing forward, and keep
Yeah.
working and keep doing the work.
Yeah. I love seeing you smile when you talk about even the hustle, because it's like working hard when it brings you joy, and it's obviously bringing you so much joy, and it's feeding you in a way. So I guess
Yes,
that's for the students that are watching this, is like, one, no, you gonna work hard for what you want. That doesn't stop after y'all get through with school. But if your face don't look like that when you're talking about what you're doing, I don't think you're doing what you want to be doing in life. um,
absolutely.
so another question I ask people, Brian, is what's your get hype song? Like, what would, like, when you need to, like, that, what's your get hype song
Mhm.
for when you're working? I know and there may be several, but
Like, for whenever I'm going back in touch for Color Boys, just because that's been a 5 year, 6 year moment. There's a song called Self Destruction. I don't know if you remember that from back in the day. It was when
self-destruction.
destruction headed
Yeah,
for self destruction.
yeah.
Woo! And it just that just gets me pumped, to just immerse myself in that piece.
Mhm.
Um, and it it just, it's just that old school hip hop where you could understand every lyric, but also it was a moment where there were so many different rappers. So you on this ride throughout the whole song. So I'm just like, and I'm Miss Melody and I'm a born again rebel. I'm like, I'm like, come on, let's work.
Let's work.
Um, and then I guess for like the show that I'm working on now, F Boy, I am making the stallion.
Yeah, yeah.
It's like all of her stuff. So I'm like, whenever I'm feeling, getting into this, what I call ratchet theater,
Hmm.
I gotta put on because we all got some ratchet in us. I put on something ratchet, and I was talking to my brother the other day. He's a pastor, and I told him about these two stories that I'm working on because he just loves my work. And I'm like, I'm surprised you're not trying to pray for me every time you come to the theater. He's like, but I love it. He's like, man, this is real. I said, Donald, I think I found my niche. I said, of course, for Color Boys, there's this intellectual moment or whatever. I said, but I'm into this ratchet theater, just telling the stories from the hood, telling some truthful stories. I'm working on a play called The Ism, and it's about the hustlers, the pimps, and the prostitutes back in the day. And so the ism, the ISM, that's the name of the
Yes.
play. And so I'm like, come on, God, what's going on? What are you doing? I said, you know what? I'm just that ratchet playwright. That's just who I am and who I be.
Yes, stand in it. Know your truth. Yeah. I think again, that smile that you get when you know you're doing it. And I'm here for all, like, I don't know. I do my ratchet meditations. So I feel you on that. I'm so excited to hear more about that piece. And yeah, our stories are so important. All of them. All of
All and that's the thing right there. When I came up with this idea, it's called the ism, and the ism is pimp talk.
them. Hmm.
We've all heard it. If we watched any of the black exploitation films, we know what the ism is. And
Yeah.
I'm like, okay, yeah, there's the musical called The Life that's on Broadway, and it's a musical, and it's great, and I love it. It's one of my favorite musicals. It's coming back with Billy Porter as the director. But I just wanted to know the truth, like the straight up truth. And I started researching, started finding these stories, and I'm like, this ain't been on the stage before.
Hmm.
And it's a story of truth, even though it may not be our truth or reality, but it's
Hmm.
somebody's truth and reality. And I think that it's stories like that that help us get along, coexist, and understand. We don't have to agree with it, but we understand that sister's hustle, why she had to do what she had to do, and now she's a nurse or whatever,
Hmm.
you know?
Hmm. Yeah, yeah, yeah. Yes. One other, because I'm like, I keep wanting, I'm like, I want to shut it down. But I'm like, no, no, no. One more question, because you also are um, you write theater reviews, a critic.
I am.
Yes, and I know from my experience, a lot of us like getting the importance of just having Black and POC critics to our work. Can you talk to me a little bit about who you write for? I want people just to know, like, hey, how to get Bryan in the room, because it's so important that we have Black folks, writing about Black work sometimes, most times.
Absolutely. I've had the blessing to work with Broadway World for the last, I want to say 5, 6 years.
Hmm.
And I'm one of their contributing editors. And, you know, I've encountered a lot being a theater critic by the melanin,
Hmm.
because I ain't supposed to know some stuff.
Hmm.
I'm not supposed to, understand Wagner opera,
Hmm.
which I love. It's
Hmm.
truly my favorite style of opera. But I review opera, classical ballet, and all the way down to, classical and contemporary theater.
Hmm.
And it's, when getting into that realm and understanding the the non-representation that we have in that business alone, was heart-wrenching, because theater reviews sell plays.
Hmm. Hmm. Hmm.
And if you are doing, for Color Boys, or, one of your shows, Flow, and then someone that does not understand the experience comes and sits and writes a review, and it's ambivalent. It's all over the place. It's like, I think I like it, and I don't know. And people hang on to those words.
Mm-hmm.
And that's what helps, make or break a show. And so I think that by us having theater critics that are, Black and brown of different cultural experiences, this is what we need and what we have to have in this business in order for us to have those reviews. Because one of the we use these reviews to help sell the play, and that's one of the things that I've done when I packaged for Colored Boys to sell it and trying to sell it to people. Reviews are a big part of it. And thankfully, we've had Black theater critics to come see For Colored Boys, and they get it, because if you come see For Colored Boys, then they're going to probably be able to reference Intozake Shange For Colored Girls. So those are the things that I think we need in this business. If you are someone that has an opinion, you love theater, you're Black or brown, get into it, get into the business, because we need more Black and brown theater critics across the board, all over the country.
Yes, we do that. What he just said, all of that, yes, so important to the life cycle of our work. And so I'm so glad to hear that, you've been working with them, and then also busting down other genres. That's another thing, reviewing ballet and opera and letting them know we're here. My last question for you is going to be, who are some artists that are on your radar, like in terms of like that you maybe like to learn from, or like to read their work, or like, who are some of your artists that, entertain you?
I go back to the queen herself of the choreo poem, Intozake Shange. I kind of try to evoke her spirit anytime that I tend to touch For Colored Boys or a choreo poem piece anyway, period. But then also I go back to also August Wilson, Lorraine Hansberry, the people that kind of set the bricks for this building that we're trying to walk into. But then I get into the new ones. I love, the new voices, or the newer voices. Of course, Susan Lloyd Parks isn't a new voice, but she is the grandmother. Katori Hall, Dominique Morrisseau, Jeremy O. Harris, that brother, Slave Play, he is very controversial. It seems like in every theater circle, there is some type of conversation, and that's what it's supposed to be, regardless if you like or love the play. I read it and I loved it. And I think that, this brother is phenomenal.
Yes.
And then, of course, I'm inspired by the new voices. I'm inspired by Florinda Bryant. And I'm inspired by myself. If we can't pat ourselves on the back, then that's a problem, and there's nothing wrong with saying, what, look at where I've been, look at where I am, and look at where I'm trying to go. That's an inspiring moment for yourself. And so I think that we have to be inspired by our own stories that we create ourselves, and let that be the fuel to help us go to the next level. Because I'm sitting here thinking, about, like you said, just a little old boy from Lamar, Texas, and I'm doing what I said that I wanted to do. And I did it on purpose. It's purposeful, you know?
Give praise. I think that's the perfect place to end. Y'all learn to pat your stuff on the back and appreciate your journey. Bryan, thank you so much for being here with me today. Absolutely. Thank you so much. I'm looking forward to hearing more about what you're doing in the future. And thanks all of you for joining us today on Makers and Methods. Bye, y'all.